Do are they the same thing? Well, first, I want to talk about incels and femcels separately and then decide at the end. So, originally, when I was talking about incels, I know incels exist, but when I was talking about incels before, in my head, I'm like, your problems can be solved if your goal is to have sex. If your goal is to have sex, I find it hard to believe with all these people on the planet that you can't find anyone to have sex with. And then I thought about it, and then I thought about it, and okay, if we brought in the definition, because incels probably want more than just sex, they want a relationship, right? So then I'm like, okay, if they want a relationship, but they're unable to have a relationship, but if you're not unable to have a relationship, you're probably unable to have sex as well. And I got some feedback and I heard some different things, and pretty much these people are saying they're trying, they're doing the right things, they're doing this and that, and women just don't find them either attractive or don't like their personality, just a whole bunch of different excuses. And that's what they are to me, excuses. Because to me, if you're an incel, and I don't want you guys to take this the wrong way when I say it's excuse, I want you to just understand that from my point of view, the behavior that you guys have in general will lead to you being celibate. So my conclusion was you guys are just not good at your social skills are bad. And let's say, okay, let's say your social skills are good. I think a lot of you are afraid of rejection. And if you're afraid of rejection, what do you do to avoid that? You don't ask anyone out. And if you don't ask anyone out, how can you get rejected? But if you don't get rejected, but if you but if you don't ask anyone out, how can you have a relationship? So it just spins and spins and spins and you end up in the same spot. Now, maybe someone disagrees with that and you guys can tell me that, but when I compare that to now femcell is completely new to me as well. My initial reaction to a femcell is how can you be involuntarily celibate? Women can find a guy just like that. Now, again, sex isn't just enough, right? So when I look at femcells and I try to understand, I think I'll go ahead and say, yeah, femcells are a real thing. I understand, but they're essentially looking for different things than incels. I mean, just the difference between men and women. Men are always going to have, I think, a higher importance on sex than women. Now, when I'm saying that is not that I don't think it's not that I think women don't value sex. They do value sex, but they want it with generally the right person. Whereas men a little more loose on those things. A lot of them don't care as long as they get the sex. But we're talking about incels. So they do care about all of these things altogether. Now, the reason this came up is because there's a person named Kidology, I think that's recently come up on YouTube, and she's a self-proclaimed femcel. And I don't agree with a lot of the things that she's said, but my biggest issue is I think she's trying to make them the same thing. Like trying to find, to her, there's not really, their issues might be different, but she's saying that they're closer to being the same than they are different. And I just disagree. Uh, First of all, being a man, you have to be the one to approach women 99% of the time. Women aren't going to come up to you. Okay? I mean, they can, and they might, but when in comparison, it is not nowhere close, right? So there has to be a difference. Now, I did go and look at a couple papers. It's relatively new, so there's nothing really good on it, but femcells have a problem where they're in such a minority that there's no community for them really to find someone to to relate. So what they end up doing is trying to join incel communities, and then the incels reject them because they don't think they're real incels. But and I would agree to the point where they see it completely different. I think an incel, someone who wants a relationship, and the reason they think it's involuntary because they're not wanted. No, they feel like nobody wants them. They can't, no matter what they do, they can't get there. Whether it's because they're short or they don't have the muscle mass or something physical. Maybe they'll never be in a position where they have money. Just all these different things that make them feel not wanted. While femcells, it's not that they're not wanted. There's plenty of men that would go after them. Well, it's just they want the femcells want time. They need something else. They need more than that. They need to make sure it's the right thing. And that almost sounds like a regular woman to me. Now, there is a difference, like I said, because a regular woman, if she wants sex, will go get sex. There's other barriers for this, but I think they're completely different things. And I think it's a very interesting thing that's come up. And I wonder why it's coming up. Because to have such a, I mean, we're at a all-time high when we're coming to people in this age group not having sex. But now we're having femcells. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's the way they were raised or the way society's changed, or it's just a whole lot of things. But all in all, what I will say is I don't know the solutions, or I can't even begin to think of solutions for femcells because I don't understand. But also, I think the reason I think there has to be a difference is because you can't have the same. They have different issues and different solutions. And to be honest, for men, I would just say you need to go and be comfortable getting rejected. You need to be comfortable getting rejected. You need to understand that rejection is a normal part of life as a man. That's something we have to go through. I think men who are very successful with women and have a lot of sex actually get rejected a lot. You might look and be like, "Damn, he gets every girl he gets." No, 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 no. I think they go after a lot of women and then they learn after going through, a couple rejections or not even a couple, a lot of rejections, what works best. And even when they find what works best, they're still getting rejected a lot. But because they're going out and going through all these different women, someone's going to say yes, and it just looks like it. But I think even success, unless you're talking about like the man who's rich, also handsome, also young, has everything in the world, all the resources in the world and a power. Yeah, they're going to be able to get it relatively easy because they have all the things that are gonna make the gap, bridge the gap between what it is. They don't have to do much, right? But that's a low percentage of men. So when we're talking about the average man, I think again this has to do with people being just afraid to do things. And that's my conclusion. So I think incels and femcels are very different. I think femcels, if you're a femcel, I really do want to hear like your struggles, your issues, reasons to be afraid, because I think there is valid reasons for things to be happening, but for the most part, you got to understand. And I think the problem is femcels don't like being excluded from the incel group because they want to say they're just the same. But I think the problem is, from their point of view, they're like, if I could do, if I had even half of what you had, or if I was in your position, I wouldn't be having the same issues. I wouldn't be having this issue. I'd be fine because it's a lot easier for women to find a partner, whether casual or um, I can't think of the other word. Casual or a serious relationship. That's. Tell me what you guys think. Do you think my conclusion on incels is right? Do you think Do you think femcells should be the same as incels? Do you guys think there should always be a distinction? What do you guys think? That's all I have. Thank you for watching.